Nigeria and Africa at large continues to face serious development challenges. Such challenges as dependency, corruption, underdeveloped infrastructure and production sectors, leadership and governance are some of the impediments to Africa's quest for sustainable and equitable development. However, with over 60 years of independence, the debate is increasingly focusing on Africa's leadership as good explanation for its poverty and underdevelopment. Now, to further discuss this, I have with me in the studio Reverend Dr. Sam Oye. He's a development coach and certified marriage instructor. He is also the founder and lead pastor of the Transforming Church, Abuja. Good morning, Reverend, and thank you so much for joining me.
It's such an honor to be here with you today.
Pleasure to have you. All right, so you are the leadership development coach and also pastor at Transforming Church.
Absolutely.
Now, in your view, especially as a development coach, what are some of the core leadership challenges that are actually facing Nigeria and Africa at large today?
Thank you so much. Such a privilege to be here with you. One of the challenges that we have is the absence of visionary and servant leaders. We need visionary leaders. We need servant leaders. And the absence of visionary leaders in any country will be the major reason why such a country will not be progressive, because ultimately the development of every nation always goes in the trajectory of vision. So the absence of a visionary leader, a sustained vision coming from a visionary leader, makes it impossible for a nation to see development. Now, a visionary leader also needs to be a servant leader. Now, your visionary leadership makes you to be able to take the nation from point A to point B. Servant leadership makes you to be able to work with the people who gets the nation from point A to point B. So we need visionary leaders and we need servant leaders.
All right, let's quickly take a look at, the happenings, political happenings in Rivers State. We're all aware of the demolition of the House of Assembly. Absolutely. And also, the rift between the governor and the former governor, that's Nyesom Wike. And taking a look at Ondo State as well, the governor being on sick leave and the acting governor, coming in to step in after so much debate. Now, how can faith-based organizations collaborate with political leaders to effectively address some of these leadership challenges?
I think for me, the major assignment of faith-based organizations is to make sure that we begin to develop value-driven leaders. People we need to focus more on values as churches. We need to talk to people more about values. What has happened to the Nigerian church is that we have become so materialistic. Obviously, it's clear. You don't blame the church too much for that. People are in need. People have need for money, for food. And so the church focuses on such needs. But what we need to do better now is to begin to focus on driving into our people values, because it's our members, people from our churches, that end up in the houses of assemblies. It's our members that end up as senators. It's our members that end up as governors, and maybe sometimes as presidents or vice president. So because we know that the church will consistently produce people who will go into positions of governance, it is critical that we put in these people the kind of values that reflects who our Savior, who we call Christ, is. We need to put in them those kind of values, so when they get into the place of governance, they'll be able to allow those values find expression in the place of governance.
All right, now you talked about, being important to add a value, or to make sure that those members who go on to become political leaders, have some of these values just as Christ did. But it's safe to say that, when they move away from the church and, attain that seat that they've actually really wanted, a lot changes.
Absolutely.
They even forget the church in some cases.
Yes.
So how do you still instill some of these principles, to make it easier for them to actually come back and, give their own quota?
Now here's the point. Once there is a failure on our part in instilling the values that will make the people go about and bring about national development, when there's a failure in that, first of all, when they get into positions of governance, they'll be swept away by what they see in the place of governance. they will be swept away. Secondly, it is important for us to understand that our job doesn't stop as pastors who just pray the people into position of governance. Our job doesn't just stop there. We have a major assignment as pastors. First, to instill values in the people that will enable them to become leaders who bring about changes in society as salts and as lights. And then number two is to follow up with them, because most times what happens is that once they get into position of governance, we pastors, we back off. We leave them, and that's when they need us the most. That's when they. So I would challenge pastors to make sure it's an Herculean task. I will encourage clergy people to make sure that you continue to work with these individuals even when they're in positions of governance. If you look at your scriptures very well, when Esther went into position of governance, Mordecai was with her. He stayed with her to keep her on check so she does not go out of character.
All right, so now a lot of Nigerians or citizens, have actually lost faith in the leaders. You have a lot of them, traveling out of the country in search of greener pastures, even though the president has actually said that he's going to focus, especially in his 2024 budget, he's going to focus on education, he's going to focus on health, and he has actually called on most of the medical doctors to actually come back to Nigeria to help the health sector grow. But a lot of Nigerians out there are saying that there's no point coming back because they've heard these promises over and over and over again. In general, just give us your take on, the situation and what you think Nigerians living abroad should do in this moment.
Well, I want to say the first thing is very clear. You don't ask people to come back when the situations that made them left home is still the same. Nigerians abroad are still in touch with their family members in Nigeria. So if you're asking them to come back to what? To what they left? No. I think the first thing government should focus on doing, which every nation of the earth has done. Singapore did that. Singapore put an enabling environment in place which made it appealing for Singaporeans to come back to Singapore. We saw the same in China. China also put in place an enabling environment that made it possible for Chinese people to come back. Everywhere there's been development, the government first puts in place, there should be security. Our roads need to be, they should be motorable. There should be security in our society. Put that in place. I'm saying this, the government put those situations, put those enabling environments in place, and then the people will come. You don't tell them to come. They are in touch with their people at home. What's going on at home? Oh, it's so bad here. We weren't able to sleep yesterday night. There's nothing you're going to tell them over the air that will make them come back. So put the place in order.
All right, well, thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Sam Oye, for joining me in the news this morning.
Appreciate you. You're welcome. Thank you.